Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Larry Houston. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm great to be here.
So, first of all, you're like every other animator's favorite animation professional, because every time I interview somebody, they ask about you, and so finally I will be able to send this interview out to several people. Like, I finally got him. And so first, just start off with a brief intro about who you are.
Let's see. My name is Larry Houston, obviously, and I was the director of the XMen, the Fantastic Four, Captain Planet, G.I. Joe, Karate Kid, and Kid and Play. And I worked on about 64 different different series, and about several other shows that I did storyboards on, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Autobots and various other shows.
So my first question is, where are you from and how was it growing up where you live?
Okay. I grew up in South Central LA, poor part of town, raised by a single mom. And pretty much she moved around a lot and kept losing and gaining friends. And the one thing consistent that I could count on, I guess, as a kid, was reading books and watching cartoon shows. And so I first became familiar with a lot of these comic books. My mom would take me to the barbershop, and in the middle they have all these magazines, and the one that caught my eye was a comic book. So I grab them and read them, and they, sometimes, take them home and read, and those Donald Duck, Richie Rich, and all that stuff. But at some point I saw Batman and Superman and stuff, and then eventually seeing something called the Fantastic Four. I didn't know what it was. Back then, the comic books that they would be there, the top third of the book would be ripped off. So you didn't know who it was until you opened to the first page and went to the bottom, and then you read the indicia, which is the copyright stuff. Like, oh, there it is. It's oh, Batman. Oh, this, that. And that's how I started getting interested a lot in comic books and reading. The funny part about that is that I kept running into words I had no idea what they meant. And I kept asking my mom, "What's this? What's this?" And eventually she bought me a dictionary and she said, "Here, here it is. You figure it out." So I started reading the book, reading it and everything, and started increasing my vocabulary. But I didn't realize I was learning. It was just fun, learning stuff like that. So that's how I got interested in being an artist and stuff. It was all by lack of having consistent friends. So
you were only child, or?
I was the only child till I was about 10.
Okay.
And so that's when my sister was born. But it's almost being the only child, because I was 10 years old and she was just born. So yeah. And so from that point forward, junior high school, I met up with in art class, I met up with several other Black nerds like I was in art production class, and we would we're all like at different levels of art, but we all enjoyed comic books and fantasy and storytelling. And we would, I would draw my own version of the Fantastic Four, or my own version of the Avengers, or whatever. We all did our own little books for ourselves, and then we would show it to each other and just think, "Oh, that was cool. Oh, you did this, you did that." Oh, we were like just having fun.
Yeah.
And so we would act as if we were, publishers of stuff like that. We were just putting ideas out of our head onto the page. For me, when I was ready to graduate from high school, I remember telling my mom I want to go to, I want to be an artist. Yeah, I want to be an artist. Now you can remember this is back in the 70s. So it's like mom was saying, that's a nice idea, but you need to get a real job.
Yeah.
So graduating from high school, I went into learning computers and I became a computer technician. And I did that for like 7 years. So I was just fixing computers and going this place and that. The last place I worked was an aerospace company called McDonnell Douglas. I was a systems analyst, and they were shipping me all over the country, fixing computers and stuff like that. And as exciting as it sounds, it got to be really boring. It was like, oh. And I had friends that were working at Hanna-Barbera, they were working at Disney, they were working at these companies, and here I am sitting in front of the computer, watching the computer go through its diagnostics, and I'm going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And you got to remember, at that point, I was like maybe 24 years old, and I'm going, no kids, no wife. I was like, I got to try and see if I can make it as an artist.
Yeah.
So what I did, I told kids, don't do this. But what I did was I didn't want to have a safety net. So I actually quit my job, and then I went looking for a job. And no, I did it ass backwards. You don't do that. But I didn't want a safety net. I just wanted to jump into the deep end of the pool and go for it. And so I went to a company called Filmation Studios. That's where Ron Myrick was working. And they had an opening for people in layout, which is what that is that they're the ones who actually set up the scenes for the animators. They draw the buildings, the floor, the walls.
Okay. Yeah.
And they position the characters for the animators to move it inside up. They kind of set it all up.
And that role has kind of dissolved at this point.
Yes. Yeah. And domestically, yes, it doesn't exist. They only do it here only if they're doing commercials. So I went in and took the test. Failed it twice. I took the test twice, failed it twice. And I was thinking to myself, this is the stupidest ass mistake I ever made. It's like, why did I do this? And the supervisor, his name was Herb Hazeltine. In my portfolio, it was kind of like portfolio was open. There was all the drawings and comic books I did in high school, that storytelling. And he took a look through it and said, you might be better suited to be a storyboard artist.
Right.
Which in my head, I was going, what the hell is that? I had no idea what it was. So he took me upstairs to Don Christensen, who was the storyboard supervisor, introduced me, gave me a script to storyboard, and he gave me the model sheets and stuff. He said, here, take this and show me what you could do. Well, I took it home. I read it. Naive me, it didn't seem to be that hard. So I drew the storyboard, brought it in the next day, which impressed him because I came back the next day with the whole thing storyboard. And he liked what I did so much. Let me back up before I say that. What I didn't realize is that he had given me a live script. There were like 8 people on that floor, all working on the same show. And he had given me a live script. And so when he saw what I drew, he actually took my drawings and put it into the show. He said, put this in, and I got hired the same day.
Nice.
And that's how I got into animation.
Nice.
And what I realize now is that if I had cold called the storyboard supervisor, I probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Yeah.
But because the layout supervisor introduced me to the storyboard supervisor, it was a really good, introduction. It got me in the door.
Yeah.
So the next thing I had to do is prove that I had the talent to pull it off.
Yeah.
And that's what worked in my favor. What I didn't, now I realize what I should have done was have more due diligence to figure out there are different there are different jobs in animation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I came with a lot of ignorance. And but at least I had the storytelling that got me the job. And once I got into animation, I never looked back at computers because I was thinking, computers would never be in animation. That's something I would never think about ever again. You know, it's like it's in rearview mirror. You know,
Right.
I had no idea. They'd be coming back. But
yeah, that's what kids and adults do a lot. Is that they think cold calling is the best way, but networking and like being introduced is
yes.
the ideal way where you can get further.
Yeah, the key to that is that if someone recommends an artist to a supervisor, their gut feeling is that, okay, you've already, you know, like you've already figured out this guy is, you know, a cut above or she's a cut above. You've already done the audition through yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're introducing somebody to me, you know that they're gonna be able to do the job. Cold calls,
unless you're like a really awesome artist.
There were like, I think I had in my career, I think I had 3 or 4, it might be more, of people who cold call me, and I said I didn't turn them down. I said, okay, show me your work, send me the work, let me see what you can do. And when I saw the work, I said, they can do it. Let me give you a shot. So I gave them a shot at drawing some work, and they did a good job. And right now they're still in the industry.
Nice.
And because I remember what it's like to be on the other side of the table. And so if I see someone, you know, I want to pay it forward. If you got the talent, I'll hire you. Or if you're close to being, you know, professional, I'll work with you.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of that in the 80s and 90s with young talent coming in to try and give them a shot like I had.
Yeah.
So I've always been trying to pay it forward to a lot of young people.
That's what I find that's cool about a lot of the people that I've interviewed, is that you all have kind of heart where you're like, okay, they look like they have potential. Let me give them a chance.
Yeah. I mean, today, unfortunately, to get a job at a lot of these companies, they have this website black hole where you're supposed to send in all your information, and you got to create your own website and put it out there, and you have no idea if they see it at all, if they hear it or anything. Back when, you know, we were in the 80s and 90s, you would just come in and talk to me. Yeah. And you'd show me your work, and I could see if there was potential, if your style matched the style of the show. And then I would give you a shot, or I'll tell you, I would tell you to, here's what you need to do to improve. Try this, come back and see me in a couple of weeks and show me what you got. Yeah. And I try and work with them and try and bring them in. Or if their style was like really not appropriate for my show, but I thought it might be good for like My Little Pony or one of the other Glow Friends or something, I would send them off to another. I said, go see the person, tell them I sent you. Yeah. And you know, sometimes, and I think in about 3 cases, they got a job because I recommended them for something else.
Nice. So okay, let's list. So you already listed some projects, but this part of is like, okay, I kind of go overboard with listing stuff because I'm like, okay, let's let you the audience know that there are Black people who have worked on some of your favorite things. So I'm not listing everything, but I just wrote down some, and you've already said some. But Thundar the Barbarian, various G.I. Joe properties, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Mr. T, Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats, The New Adventures of Johnny Quest, The Real Ghostbusters, Pride of the X-Men, Kid and Play, Swamp Thing, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Conan the Adventurer, Captain Planet and the Planeteers, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Fantastic Four the Animated Series, Jackie Chan Adventures, Static Shock, Lunatics Unleashed, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's like I think I had someone told me it's like 68 different series.
Yeah.
One of the fun ones you mentioned was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because when that was coming about, I was working at Marvel in the daytime,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do Ninja Turtles when I go home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked on the miniseries. That's what they did back then. Like they did a miniseries on either like Ninja Turtles or like G.I. Joe. They do like a 5-part and see how well the ratings were.
Yeah.
And once the ratings came in and was like, okay, we got a green light, kids like it. Then they got a series for 65 episodes and it would take off.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the Turtles so much. I did freelance. I did 118 episodes freelance at home. It was like so much fun.
Yeah.
They would allow you to you could modify the scripts. You could have fun with it to make it fun. Because the script would give you the parameters of what the story was. But that if you're a good storyteller, you could have fun, change angles, and create new combat scenes or new pizza scenes or whatever. So I really enjoyed that as a freelancer.
Additional to what you're saying right there, you got the opportunity to create the opening scene for the G.I. Joe movie, and instead of giving you something specific to do, you were allowed to be more free. Can you explain how that kind of process is beneficial for the artist and also the project, having that freedom?
What specifically to that G.I. Joe movie, what it was is that the toy company said we need an introduction to this movie instead of opening up cold.
Mm-hmm.
So myself, Frank Parr, and another artist, I can't remember his name right now, Boyd Kirkland, they said make up something.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me at that time, the anniversary of the Statue of Liberty was coming around. And so that gave me a key saying, okay, what about if Cobra came in to try and try and fuck it all up? And so I just took that thought and just started making up stuff. At that point, I had been a director on G.I. Joe for like, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years. I had worked on a 65 episode series. So I had all this G.I. Joe stuff in my head. So I just started drawing stuff, making up stuff. And when we showed all of what we wanted to do to the toy company, they picked my storyboard. So that's how that got picked. But all the images and actions and stuff was stuff I made up from just my imagination, just stream of consciousness. And the nice part about it, which I liked, was that when you do television and you do a storyboard, you try and draw. At least this is my approach. I try and draw and put everything in the kitchen sink into what I think the scene should be. Because when it goes overseas and comes back, you're lucky to see 50% of what you drew on the screen.
Okay.
With the G.I. Joe movie, when I drew that, when it came back, they drew everything. I mean, balloons, everything, all these people flying around and going, holy shit, it looks great. And then once they saw the images, then they wrote the music according to my visuals, and it all came together. And I was like, that's probably the best sequence that I drew that actually came on the screen in my entire animated life, because that had a theatrical budget as opposed to really it's been spectacular. And I still get compliments from fans of G.I. Joe about how they really enjoyed that imagery. And it's like, so do I. I wish I had kept copies of the pencil test, because the pencil tests were like really good.
Yeah.
But it was so good.
So with that G.I. Joe opportunity, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opportunity, what do you feel is like the benefit of letting the artist be the expert and input their creativity?
I think if you get the right artist, you can you'll get more than what you expected, because you'll get enthusiasm. You'll get people putting more of their heart into it than they would if they're just setting up a shot, long shot, medium, close up, blah blah, something boring. You'll get more of like what I call tapping into your being. You're tapping into your youth, the inner child, and you're putting it into the show. And if you allow artists to let that creativity flow out of your subconscious into on the page, I think you get more than what you expected back. And when I was directing on the X-Men, I knew the artists I was working with, and some of them were really good at storytelling, like women or cars or combat, or maybe like where just people talking in a room, and they knew how to pose the characters naturally and make the storytelling very, very efficient and very dramatic. And so I tried to, when I read the scripts, I try and give this guy act 1, this person act 2, this person act 3, because I know, and I let them go. I said, just just do what you got to do what you do best.
Yeah.
And I would get back stuff way better than I expected. Stuff I probably would have never drawn, but when I see it, I'm going, wow, this is great. This is great. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, letting your creativity flow without restriction can sometimes be the best. You get the best results. I think so.
What was the biggest breakthrough in your career, or did you have multiple? Do you feel?
It's several. I guess the biggest one was actually getting my first job. Like, at the time, I didn't know I was the first Black storyboard artist in Hollywood. I just wanted a work. I just wanted a paycheck again, because I jumped off into the deep end. I'm going, what am I doing? But when I got hired, it's like, whew, okay, I'm in the door. I got paycheck again. I feel fine. And someone's paying me to actually draw pictures for a living.
Right.
That was my biggest that one. But the next one was being hired at. I left Filmation. I got hired over at Marvel to work on the very, very first show. Was a show called it was the Spider-Man series, syndicated, but they needed to it was like, I think they had 13 episodes left that they needed to make it to 65, and they hired me to work on that because I had worked on, they had saw my superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And so the breakthrough of that was that, I got a chance, I got hired by Stan Lee to come work on Spider-Man. It was like, 25-year-old kid, I'm going, yes, sir. And so I got a chance to do that. That was a breakthrough. And also the fact that I'm working with Stan, I mean, he's literally like 2 doors down from my office. And I worked with him for like 13 years. Nice. So that was an excellent breakthrough. But I guess the next one would have been on G.I. Joe, because I started as a storyboard artist, and then one of the directors left for another job. So the supervising director said, I told him I wanted to be a director. He said, this guy's leaving. Do you want to try? And I went, yes. So that's when I got promoted to being a director. And after that point, I was a director for the rest of my career. I could do storyboards, but I was mainly a director from that point forward. And
what do you think are the keys to being a good director? Like, because I'm guessing you've encountered bad directors. So, like, what's the key to being a good director?
You need to have a vision for you keep a vision of the entire story that you're trying to show, but always be open to other storyboard artists. The way they're going to tell the story. Like, be open to how someone else might tell the story. It won't be the same as you. Yeah. But be open to it and keep the big picture in mind when you're directing. For me, it's like I try to make sure that the entire story makes sense, and back then the stories were like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So try and make sure it's all consistent from beginning to end. The good guys are going this way, bad guys going that way, that kind of stuff. But for me, it's like try to challenge your creativity. Like, try not to tell the story the same way over and over and over again. Trying to look for new ways to try and tell this point of view or that point of view, and try and encourage the artist to try and think outside the box. Okay,
Yeah.
what's a better way of showing this? Just challenge them and see what they could come back with. Because for me, that's what I always tried to do when I was a storyboard artist. I tried to challenge myself, like, okay, here's the good guy, bad guys. How can I depict this conflict differently than I did like in another show?
Yeah.
I do differently. And for me, that inspiration came from the director from Japan. His name is Hayao Miyazaki. He did a lot of movies from back then that inspired me. Laputa and Cagliostro's Castle and Kiki's Delivery Service. He did a lot of theatrical cartoons that were like, it wasn't Scooby-Doo left or right or Super Friends, and that kind of stuff. He did a lot of creative setups for the scenes that looked 3D, but when you sat down and figured it out, it was 2D. So I would literally be watching his films over and over and over again to see how he did that shot and try and put it in my subconscious so that when I was working on another show, I could, okay, you could get it. I wouldn't copy his shot, but it would inspire me how to figure out a new way to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So when the audience would see it, it would be, whoa, what was that? It'd be like, you catch them like, wow, I hadn't seen that before, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So just, I guess for being a good director, it's like encourage your people working for you to be open, let them be creative. And as a board guy myself, always challenge myself. Don't keep drawing the same thing over and over again. Let's see if you can do something new.
Yeah, it seems like as a director, like I wouldn't have done it like that, but it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As long as it works.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I think it was episode 12 in my in the X-Men. They had a scene where I brought in a live action storyboard artist. I think his name was Dave Lowry, I think. Anyway, he did like the end sequence of that show. And when I saw the storyboards, it was really different from what any of my other guys did, because he came from live action.
Yeah. And
I said, well, I wouldn't have drawn it, but it tells the story really well. And when you see the final film, it's like, wow, that's really good. I'm glad I didn't cut it. I'm glad I didn't fix it. I didn't do any of that stuff, because what he did was perfect. It's like, so yeah, you never know what you're going to get, as long as you just let people do what they do best.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know.
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
So what are some of the most impactful things you've heard from fans in relation to your work?
I guess it was I went to started going to conventions back in 2016, 17. The things what I didn't realize was that some of the shows really helped a lot of kids at that age, that little critical age between 9 and 12 and stuff like that. It really meant a lot to them, because it gave them something to really want to go. They wanted to see the X-Men at a certain time. And some of them had problems of dealing with being different from people around them, like being gay or being the only minority or whatever. And it gave them something to latch onto.
Yeah.
And I really think watching the show, it helped them through a period in their lives where they didn't have the cognitive skills to know how to deal with the problems around them. And by watching the shows, they actually got clues on how to handle it. So when they got older, obviously they could handle it on their own, but it just helped them through a little critical period in their lives.
And it was relatable.
Yeah. And there was a guy that was being picked on because he was short. And one of the characters in the show was Wolverine. And, he showed up, but he didn't back off. In fact, he got in your face. And it helped this one person who came to the panel to over a critical period of his life that he learned a lot more self-confidence just listening to Wolverine talk about, you know, not backing off. And there were other ladies. There was like a trans girl who really it really was meant really meaningful for her watching the show and watching, being different is okay. You can be different, and it gave her a lot of. She saw a lot of herself in the symbolism of the show, and there's been others. I mean, there was one. I can't remember the story exactly because it was told to one of the voice actors, but what this person was thinking about suicide. I couldn't believe it, and she actually changed her mind because she was. I mean, it's going to sound weird, but she was going to miss the show. So she did. She told us she didn't do it because she was going to miss the show, and she cried and she was hugging. I think Lenore Zahn, the voice actress for Rogue and stuff. We found little testimonials all over the place when we've done these shows, and it's really helped a lot of people to over the young minds just to get them over that little bridge. That's all it was. It's just a bridge.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that for after the show finished, until Disney bought the X-Men rights to the X-Men that period, Disney, we were kind of like the bastard childs. The story editors, me, the voice actors, because Fox owned it, they didn't. We were like the bastard childs running around at different conventions and stuff. Nobody supported us, and we actually thought people forgot about us. Yeah, and it wasn't until after Disney bought it, and then they helped us in with publicity. Suddenly, we're back in favor, and all of a sudden we discovered that there's a ton of people who still remember the show fondly.
Yeah,
and they welcomed us with a lot of love and a lot of adulations and stuff, and it was quite gratifying, especially for the Canadian actors. The voices, because up in Canada, there's no big following up there. Just like whatever. But down in the States, their popularity blew up like crazy. So
nice. So I know a lot of comic books have a quality factor when it comes to storyline and design. Recent projects, whether they be comic book related or not, sometimes don't take that same care. And we all know that there are some horrible animated adaptations of comic books out there. What do you think gets lost when some companies decide to take on creating animated series or movies from a comic book?
I think it starts with at the top. I think what happens is that there's too many egos at the top who will take a property and try and make it their own personal, make it about them as opposed to making it about the property. Yeah. And they'll take it and change stuff arbitrarily and without remembering why is the property successful. There's a reason why this stuff is so popular. So my philosophy is that, just take the books, put it on the screen. That's all. I mean, it sounds simple, but just put it on the screen. Because it's a film and not a book, you have to change stuff, but you only change if you have to. You don't change it because you can. Yeah. So as long as there are things we had to change in the X-Men, but only because we had to, in order to try and set up a group of characters that could appeal to a wide audience who have no idea what a mutant is. They have no idea what the X-Men is. So there were changes made, but we tried to keep as close as possible to the original source material. And I think a lot of the X-Men movies have suffered from that because they've changed. Sometimes they change stuff so much. It's not the books. It's like you should just call this something else. Some other name. The underground whatever.
The
But
underground mutants.
yeah, yeah. But that was my philosophy when I was working on when I was in control of the stuff of the X-Men. That was my philosophy. And going back, just a little short story here. Myself, Will Mineo, Rick Holberg, we were all the co-directors on the first. We did a pilot called Pride of the X-Men, and we wrote it and we drew it. We directed it ourselves, and we had, since it was other people's money, we wanted the first our Pride of the X-Men. We wanted her to fight, bring in the Sentinels, but the people in charge wanted to sell plastic. So they said, no, we need a cast of characters so we can make money off of selling Magneto and blah, 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 and all these toys. That's where the villains came from.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, fine. There was also, at the time, the show that was popular was a show called Crocodile Dundee. So they said, hey, that's popular. Why don't you make Wolverine Australian? And we're like going, oh God. we were biting our tongue going, okay, if the show's successful, we'll switch them back, but let's just see if we can sell the show. And back then it was only CBS, NBC, and ABC that you could sell the cartoon show to.
Yeah.
Well, we learned a lesson because, one, that pilot didn't sell, and two, we learned a lesson about compromise and trying to keep the integrity of like adapting the books the way it should be. So when we fast forward about 6 years later, 1992, there were a lot of people, those same folks were still there. They wanted to make Wolverine sheets and Cyclops, like lampshades or whatever. They had all these toys they wanted us to put in the show. And we had to keep saying no. No, actually, what we did was we did a political song and dance. Like, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll take that into consider. You know, we did all this song and dance political shit. You know. And it got to a point, up until a point where they said, they were actually at a point they started saying, trying to dictate, saying, like, you will do this, you will do that, you will do this. And luckily, collectively, there were like, I think 5 or 6 of us. I'm paraphrasing here, but we basically said, if that's what you want to do with the show, we're the wrong creative team, we'll quit. And we had to stand up together and make them back off, which they did. What came out of that, though, is that they didn't give us any publicity. They thought we were going to be one and done. And so they backed off on me being the director on trying to micromanage me because they figured out it's just going to die away. No, who wants to see anything about X-Men and mutants and blah, blah, blah. So for me, I knew this was my second bite of the apple.
Yeah. That
I had to do a good job. I had to go out in a flame of glory or something. You know, so working with the writers, we figured out what the 13 episode arc would be. And I just tried to do my best work because we had no guarantee of season 2. So I was just, okay.
And you already did it bad the first time, so you might as well do it good.
Yeah. Go out at least, you know, making this, not listening to, you know, those other voices. Just do it the way I think. Just tune in on being for me, it was like remembering what it is to be like 9 years old, buying comic books. What was the thrill that was inside? And so when I would either redraw sections of the script or I can't say I rewrote stuff, but I would move stuff around. Try and remember what it's like to be that young kid without, you know, like take your adult cynicism, set it aside over here, and just try and be a young person making the show. Would this excite me? And if it did, then I kept it in the show.
Yeah.
And so I just did that for 13 episodes. And at the end, myself, the story editors, we all had our resumes out. We were gonna, okay, what's the next? We got to pay our bills, you know. And at the last minute, they gave us a season 2, literally at the last minute. And in post, we had to manufacture a new ending because we created this new like cliffhanger in post to imply a new villain was coming in for season 2. And but yeah, it was like a last minute thing before they shipped off the final to the client.
Yeah.
So long answer, I know.
So okay, long question. During the lead up to the Black Panther movie coming out, there was a lot of excitement among people who weren't as familiar with comic books and the storyline. And I noticed that some comic book heads got upset that things they were made fun of for liking when they were younger were being touted by bandwagon fans. So
Right.
from my perspective, I thought that was a great opportunity for like nerds to be a gateway to these people because after people watched the Black Panther movie, they wanted to know more. And the people who read the comic books could act as a bridge. So what do you think the role of the diehard comic book fans can be as more of these titles become more mainstream, particularly in the Black community?
Oh, I think the fans, the Black fans, are critical to the success of a lot of these films, especially if it's done right. You know, for me, I I'm old guy, so I grew up with it. I bought the Black Panther off the spinner rack when I was a kid, and it was 60 some late 60s. I can't remember what year it was now, but I've been a fan of the character for a long time, and I think in the Black community, there's a lot of Black nerds out here that we all love good films. We love good fantasy. We love good those type of films, action adventure. And for me, when I put the Black Panther into like his first animated appearance was in the XMen. I put him in as like a character, but you didn't know who it was. But I should say regular people didn't know who it was. But if you were a nerd, you knew that was a Black Panther right there. And then I got a chance when I left the XMen to direct the Fantastic Four. We actually got a chance to adapt the original 2 stories of the Black Panther and mushed it into one story, and we called it the Prey of the Black Panther. And that was like the one character I really wanted to do, and we got a chance to do it. And I was really when I heard the voice recording, when I got a chance to pick the voice for the character, Keith David. I mean, listening to his voice is like, oh man, I don't need to hear anybody else. You know, he's got the role, he's got it. You know, nobody else. So I'm trying to remember also. When I was in high school, I mean, we were all Black artists, Black nerds, and we were all loved the same things. So I'm assuming that there's a lot more of us out there who
and you all have the power to convert more people now that it's becoming more mainstream. I know. So I finished a 2-year term as the president of the Urban League of Young Professionals in 2019, but during the year before, I was a social and cultural chair, and so I actually planned for the next year because Black Panther was coming out that next year. I planned a watch party where we rented out a theater, like a local theater, in when I was living in New Orleans, and we were like, actually, I kind of sister because we're both part of the same sorority, and her chapter doing like a watch party, and I'm like, wow, people are planning this early. Oh, let me get on this. So I was like, oh, we're gonna have a watch party, and then all these people, you know how Black Facebook and Black Twitter is, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna dress up. So I'm like, okay, so let's have a watch party where we rent out a theater and we sell tickets, and then you can either dress up in motherland chic, so or you can dress up in like just like ball gowns, or like I gave people options, so like African print, but like what is it called, formal, or like comic book, whatever, in costume. And so like all the people in the line, like we had it that February, and all the people were in the line were dressed up in different ways and all this stuff, and I was president by then. But I was just like, I wanted to capitalize off the excitement and make it our event, even though I didn't read the comic books, even though I didn't always watch all the movies. I felt like people were excited about it. This was our movie, so let's make a big deal out of it. out of it, and you all just tell us what we should be doing. Don't get mad at us. Like, convert us.
Oh God, that sounds so good. I wish I had been there.
Yeah.
To be around that energy is so exciting. It just adds to it, to the enjoyment, you know.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we had none of that. It was like no dress up, none of that stuff. They didn't exist until like the late 90s, I guess, when people started doing more of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like you got the best of both worlds now.
Yeah.
You know.
And while you were talking about being able to do the Black Panther characters, so like I thought of another question. So like you got to work on Mr. T, Kid and Play, Static Shock, from Black Panther. Like, was there anything like, obviously you're more famous for your XMen and all this stuff, but with these other shows having like Black leads or Black characters, was there anything cool that you felt working on those shows?
I had a lot of fun working on Dwayne McDuffie's scripts on Static Shock, because it was a really good fun to, like, the one I remember the most was like he wrote the episode of Static Goes to Africa, and so I got a chance to draw that section, and it was fun to depict a Black character discovering Africa, and I mean, it's all in the writing. I mean, Dwayne did an excellent job writing that type of revelation script. So what I did was just take it and just tried to show the best storytelling I could on his type of scripts. And it was like very satisfying to know that, like, the person I was working with, my producer, was Black. His name was Swinton Scott. And my immediate director was Vic Del Celli, an Italian guy, but we're all from the same. We all started in the same place. Believe it or not, way back in Filmation. We're buddies from way back when. It's like from 1980. I think Static Shock was in 2000s somewhere. And so and so we all stayed in contact. And when he started producing Static Shock, I got a call. Hey, you want to work? Said, of course, you know. And I think I started on either season 4 or 5 or 5 or 6, something like that. And no, Static Shock was like, I had a lot of fun. Dwayne and his wife they were like really nice people. And it was nice to have people that look like myself all over in the industry. You know, in the beginning, it was only on my level, it was only one. It was me. And then when I moved to Marvel to work with Marvel, it was just me. That was it. But then it started getting more and more populated with other women and also other minorities. Started growing and growing. Back then, I have to actually say that it was actually, from my perspective, it was more of a meritocracy, that if you could do the work, people hired you. You know, you got a lot of opportunities, especially in the 90s. The 90s animation was booming. And if you could hold a pencil, you got hired anywhere, everywhere. And so it was based upon a lot of talent. Today, with the black hole of send your stuff on the internet, set up the web. I don't know what it's like anymore. It's just everything changed so much. But back then, you know, if you walked in the door, you could, hey, the work's great. Yeah, hire her or hire him. You know, you got the job, and just, you know, you got a chance to show what you could do.
Yeah, and now that's the point of my platform, to be like, we are few, but that we're more than we realize.
Oh yes, as you're finding out, you know, you're interviewing a lot of the Black artists who work in the business. There's a lot of us there that people never knew we existed. But a lot of it, actually, what I tell people is that when you're working, you really don't have time to go out and promote yourself. You got your nose to the grindstone. I have a deadline in 2 weeks. I got to get it done. So you're just working. You turn into work, and then they give you more work. And so you work, and just keep going. And until you like get close to retirement, like I did, that's when you start having more time to, like, you know, go to conventions, talk to people about what you did as an artist, as a producer and stuff. And I've had several people come up. that didn't realize I was a black man, and they were like, they're black themselves, and they it's like they caught them off guard. You know? But I know now that if people can see you and see what you're doing, it's like I can do that too.
Yeah.
If they
That's
see
why
it,
it's important for me to have a YouTube channel instead of a podcast, because I want people to see you all.
Yeah. Yeah, and excellent. I'm glad you exist, and I'm glad you found me. I'm glad I found you. It was I think it was Ron or somebody told me, like, hook up with her. I'm going, yeah, okay, I'll do
that. Let's see. So after retirement, what did you fill your life with?
I for about the first year, nothing. I just relaxed. No more deadlines. No more driving to work. I mean, where I live about an hour from Los Angeles. So it was like get on the freeway. It's an hour to get to work in Burbank, an hour to get back, traffic and all that stuff. It takes its toll.
Yeah.
And so about the first year, I didn't do much at all. I just took in the relaxation time. But after that, I started working on my graphic novel. I did one graphic novel of some ideas that I had way back in high school. I did that again, and started writing screenplays, new stories, and I got representation. The agent who represents the voice talent for the X-Men, wanted to bring me in as part of the group. And then once we did that, he booked us at different conventions as a group, and we went around the country that way. And not last year, but like, what was that, 2017, 18, 19, and we did that for like 3 years and went around the country, and that was fun. My wife got a chance to, she was my assistant, so everywhere we go, I bring my wife, and she actually enjoyed it more than me because she helped me set up the booth, and then she'd say, "See you later," and she'd go out to the city. She saw everything. So when I got back to the hotel, she said, "Oh, you should have seen this." So she had pictures and everything. And it's like, oh man, I finally figured out that when I do these conventions, I either have them book me like 3 days ahead, or give me 3 days afterwards.
Yeah.
And we could go out to the city. It took a little while for the brain to kick in to figure that one out. The last one we did was New Orleans. It was in January of 2000. Yes. Yeah. Because
I was also one of my friends, he has a booth at WizardCon, and he always invited me, and I always go because I hadn't seen him he was one of my original mentors, and I would go sit by his booth, but I never thought to be like, oh, maybe I should go to the con. I just was like, oh, AJ's in town, let me go sit by him at his booth.
Yeah. I have a lot of family. I have, on my mom's side, I have tons of aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews, and I hadn't seen them in decades. So when we got the chance to go to New Orleans, I flew my kids in from different parts, and we all, after the convention, we went to go see the city and see the families and stuff and everything. And that was I'm glad we did that. That was a smart thing to do. Because literally when COVID hit and everything got shut down, but at least everybody got the chance to meet everyone before everything got shut down.
I wish I didn't know then, because I didn't move to LA till February of 2020.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was fun. To see New Orleans, I hadn't been there in so long. Yeah.
Did you eat all the good food?
Sorry. Oh yeah. Oh man. My uncle's wife, man, she cooked a really nice dinner for us with all the Cajun foods there, and it's delicious. I had missed all that living in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So good.
So as a veteran in the animation industry, what have you decided is your purpose in regard to like Blackness and Black professionals in animation? Do you mentor anyone, or is it just like you going out to the cons and like having that face out there?
For me, I've been trying to be more visible, to be more accessible, and that if anybody wants to come talk to me about what I did and maybe get some direction from me, I'm always open for it. You know, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I try and you know, if you want whatever you want to know, I'll pour out 100% of what I know to you and help you, you know, get started. And you know, to give you all the experience and knowledge that I have, and just I do want to pay it forward and help anyone to take that next step, because I definitely still remember being on the other side of the table, and you know, I want to try and help everyone I can. And so, you know, when I met young Black artists, I try and give them whatever information they need to take the next step. And if I have contacts that they could talk to who are still in the business, I give them the phone numbers to tell them I sent you, that kind of stuff, and just you know, just go for it. But yeah, I really feel that it's important for me to pass it on to the next generation, let them succeed, you know, and excel beyond whatever I did. You know, they'll take it and then just go past me. It's like, that's exactly what I want them to do.
Yeah. So you said you were writing some screenplays in retirement. What were like some of the storylines?
Well, one I wrote was, I drew these characters for a company called Charlton Bullseye, Charlton Comics. The issue was called Charlton Bullseye. I created these 3 female freedom fighters who were fighting to prevent a war. And it's they were called the Vanguards. And what I've done recently with that idea is that I took it and say, okay, let me take it and try to expand on what it was. And so I created a screenplay for them, and got an agent and got it into CAA. And they considered, they thought it would make a nice film, you know, especially with 3 female leads, you know. But then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then everything went, you know, radio silent. So I don't know what's going to happen when everything gets better, but I did do that. It's out there. So I did that. And I also did like 3 other screenplays just to see what I just wanted to, I had all these ideas in my head. I wanted to put it on paper.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you make up you write your script. It's way too long. You go back, you start shrinking it down, you know, start cutting stuff, cutting this, nope, until you get it down to like the idea that, yeah, this works. You know, then you walk away, maybe a week or 2, you go back, read it again, and then you start making sure it works. Yeah. Cutting out the filler. Yeah. So are you a writer also?
Not really. I'm a 3D. Well, even though I go by BlkWmnAnimator, I'm a 3D modeler. So. Okay.
Yeah, I've written 2 animation scripts. One was with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I wrote the episode called Swarm, and then with G.I. Joe, I wrote one episode called oh crap! I just lost the name. I just lost the name. But anyway, I wrote 2 episodes. I wrote 2 back in the early part of my career, and it was very satisfying to actually learn story structure and you know, the dramatic, you know, ending of Act 1, 2, and 3, the structure that they required for those days. Yeah. And, it's fun. And
yeah, like I've been working with some people. Like one guy wants to create an animation, and he asked me if I wanted to be on the script writing team. I'm like, I can't write stuff, but I can tell you, okay, that don't make no sense. Why you want to do that? I can comment on writing, but just writing, no. I'm sure I could do it, but that's not my thing.
Okay, you're more of the script reader, where you can read it, you got all the. No, this isn't good. Fix this. This doesn't work. Yeah. I have that. I think I have that instinct, but it's more visual. I think I can over my career, I've been able to be a very good visual storyteller.
Yeah.
And so my gut instincts go in that direction of visual storytelling. If something doesn't work, it pops up to me. It's like, and I have to sit down and think, why doesn't it work? And then I'll just start redrawing it. I've had several times in my career where I've read a part of the script and it makes no sense. And I think two out of the three times I've done that, it worked really well.
Yeah.
I remember redrawing something on there was a show called Mighty Orbots, where the writer wrote, it opens on these characters playing a chess game. And I'm going, in my head, this is Saturday morning, kids 9 years old, they're going to be bored as hell watching a chess game. So on my own, instead of drawing, you just see these robots come out of these tubes in outer space, and they're not going to shoot at each other. They're shooting and bashing and stuff like that. They're doing all this fighting. And then when the camera finally pulls back, you see that they're characters on a chessboard fighting each other on a it's something like the Star Wars when they had that little each other. So I started it off like that to make it more visually interesting than just people's it's like, oh God, I was like, how am I going to draw this? So that was kind of things I did, like it doesn't work. So
that was like, I wasn't going to do it like that, but it works.
Yeah. And when I found out, because on that I wasn't the director, I was one of the board guys.
Yeah.
About a year later, the director, actually director of that episode, came up to me and said, he asked me, did you draw this section? Did you draw these robots? And I'm going, yeah. And surprisingly, he put his hand out. He was a Japanese director. He said, thank you. You made the show so much better. And I was like, wow. I got thanked for making changes, unauthorized changes.
Right.
But I just had a gut feeling that this was not going to work. So things like that. Yeah. I did something like that once with a turtle board. Not with the original guys, but some guys out of New York when I was out there. And I did some changes and they didn't like it. So I never got work from them again. But that was fine. But I just did what I've always done.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's appreciated, sometimes not. But
yeah,
you just move on.
So what do you hope for the future of animation as far as innovation, storylines, characters, etc.?
I think your generation have so many possibilities. You got all of these streaming channels and places where you can put your work. I mean, when I grew up, there was only network television and syndicated. That was it. I think you have so many avenues where you can put your creativity out there for everybody to see. Even if it's not the majors, you can put it on your own channel and put it out there for people to and see how people like the stuff. I think anybody who has a passion that they really feel strong about, that they can't get it into or get it seen by the major networks out there, just figure out a way to do it yourself. Do it animatic, which is not as expensive, but just get it out there so people can see it. And a lot of the companies that, if you get your stuff out there and if you can make it popular on your own, the big majors with the big bucks will notice. They'll come talk to you, but you'll be in the bird seat.
Yeah.
You can call the terms. You can tell them, I want this, I don't want this. And that's a key to negotiating with these guys.
Yeah.
But I think you guys have got so much more than I had. And your generation is more familiar with all the technology. I mean, I had to have my son set up some of this stuff. I used to work in computers, but I still not familiar. He can get on the phone and text with two thumbs. Poke, poke, and he's like this.
Yeah.
So, different generation.
Yeah, I feel like the norm these days is that they want to hop onto something that's already popular rather than build the popularity themselves. So they want you to be on YouTube or your own platform where you've already got an audience, and then
Yeah.
they're like, okay, now we'll give you money.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is that if you're popular without their help, you may not need them.
Yeah.
You can just keep going. I have a friend, oh God, I'm gonna miss his name again. His I can't remember his birth, I can't remember his first name, but anyway, he was an artist who was working at Warner Brothers, black artist,
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing models or
Mm-hmm.
props and stuff. He set up his own channel to show people how to draw Batman, how to draw
Mm-hmm.
Goku from Dragon Ball Z, and he just set up a camera and people would watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his channel became so popular, it got to the point where he was actually making more money with his channel because YouTube saw it. They gave him advertising dollars, you know, whatever, however they monetize it.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually quit his job at Warner Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time on his channel. Then all the drawings he did, he was able to compile it into a book, put it onto oh God, what is that thing? Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
made money from drawings he already had. And he was able to take what he was doing and to make it into a success. I mean, he's very successful, and he's still continuing that. But that's where, you know, he became his own brand,
Yeah.
and blew up, and he's still doing it today. So yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
just
the
follow your
interesting
passion.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing with my generation is that we see all these people doing it a different way, but some of us also still have the old school way. We're like, we
Yeah.
want to pitch to a studio. Like, why? Do it.
Yeah. You don't have to. You don't need to. You know, that's not necessary. And the thing is to remember, if you walk into a studio, you know, and your stuff hasn't been proven yet, you're at a disadvantage in terms of negotiating terms.
Yeah.
Like when contracts given from a major studio to you, it's
Mhm.
always written toward them that, you know, 80% of what's going to benefit from the product is going to be for them.
Mhm.
You're lucky to get 10% if you're lucky,
Yeah.
the way it's written. You know, why not just do it yourself? You know, you could put out books. You could put out books through, I won't say Scholastic, but companies like Scholastic,
Mhm.
and you could get your stuff published into the schools, into different locations, and they have they can, you know, 500,000 to 1,000,000 copies can get out there, and you can do the math how much money you're going to make from doing stuff like that. You can self-publish and
Yeah.
get stuff done that way. Um, the key thing, which I tell young people trying to self-publish and maybe get if they're looking for I won't say a sponsor. Yeah, I guess as a sponsor, is that if you know let's say you want to hook up with one of these hardware companies,
Mhm.
figure out how they make money
Yeah.
and how can your product help them make money. Because once you can tie that in, you're tying into their way of thinking,
Yeah.
and your product could help. Like if you had a concept that involved gardening or something, I'm just making up stuff, and if you could tie it into what they do, how they make money, they'll back you, or
Home
they'll
Depot.
promote you. Yeah, and there's ways of thinking outside the box
Mhm.
to make yourself successful, and it's taking that next cognitive step
Yeah.
and thinking differently.
Yeah, I actually self-published the alphabet book that I always forget about. Like, but I did a daily art. You know, they have those daily art challenges. And so I think I did my own daily project for Black History Month back in 2017 because
Okay.
the idea was that you know, with video games, they don't have they're getting better, but when you have your avatar, they didn't have the black hairstyles.
Right.
So I called it the Black Hair Alphabet, and so I have a black hairstyle, and not all of them are necessarily black, but a hairstyle for every letter of the alphabet. So A is for Afro, B is for Bantu knot, C is for conch, D is for dread. And then, so I finished the art project, and then I was like looking up on Amazon Kindle how to self-publish, and I just had these images. I'm like, okay, I could just put A is for Afro on the other page. And so I, like Memorial Day weekend 2017, I just like, oh, let me just publish a book.
There you go. Yeah. And that's great because you put it out there, and you know, you got to tie it in with it's like take off. Unfortunately, you got to take off your creative hat, put on your marketing hat, and then just you got to go out there and let people know it exists, because there's so much out there. You got to somehow break through the pile to let people know you exist, and once they find you, the success can just roll in from that point. But it's publicity and marketing, and unfortunately, a lot of artists don't have that other skill set, or they're unfamiliar with it, and so you have to educate them on that. Yeah, you can be this person, but you also got to be this person. What historically in the animation business, it's always been, if you get two people that trust each other, that can work well together, like you get Hanna and Barbera, you got the two Disney brothers. When you have one person that wants to be creative, another person wants to be the business, and they trust each other, then everything really works well. Because if that's your skill set, if your skill set is the more business part, you got a creative partner, you trust each other, it really works well, especially in animation, having those two to complement each other.
So one of my last questions, if you had a documentary, what things would you want to highlight about yourself outside of your work in animation?
Oh, wow. Oh, God. I would have to think about that. I guess outside of animation, my work has been, I guess, a documentary on growing up in South Central LA, and showing, how a person can become successful. I mean, there are a lot of, you make a lot of mistakes growing up, and then it's all part of becoming who you are. But just showing that even if you're in a situation you think that is not the best, that you can persevere, that you can find like minds along the way that will help you achieve what you think you want to. I mean, I think about in junior high school, I don't think I had anybody that was a Black nerd at all. But when I got to high school, I had a whole class. One class was my art class. It was like 6 or 8 of us, Black nerds at the same time. It was like great. My 10th, 11th, and 12th grade was full of having fun and talking with people. So having like minds and talking about the future and stuff. So I think it would be a documentary on becoming who you want to be over time.
Becoming an animation legend.
I let other people say that. I
know.
I just think of
I just
feel really blessed, that I got a chance to do exactly what I wanted to do. The job I wanted, to work on the shows I wanted, and to control and tell the stories I wanted to tell. Because my initial idea was to go to Marvel and work on the comic books. And I had no money, knew nobody in New York. I wasn't a good enough artist, so that didn't happen. But my friends in animation kind of steered me in that direction, and then I just kept drawing my own comic books, and it just that skill set helped me to get into filmation and everything else beyond.
And in my interview with Chuck Patton, he left the comic book industry so he could actually make money in the animation.
It's kind of, I found this is something I didn't realize until after the fact, was that you could go to comic books, and if you got in the door, it's great. You're drawing comic books, but you're an independent contractor. You have no benefits. Your job is month to month, and you're not building equity into your retirement. Whereas you jump into animation, you're getting a steady paycheck, and you're building into your retirement. And you got, when I was younger, this didn't matter to me, but you got the health benefits and stuff like that. And
yeah,
and when you're young, it's like, who the hell cares about that? But now I'm so damn glad I have it. It's like, oh yes, I got retired. I got a pension. I got health benefits. I just got my first COVID shot, which is great. So
nice.
waiting on the next one. And by default, I'm glad I went to animation. Hindsight 2020.
Yeah. So, what's your website and how can people follow you on social media?
Okay, let's see. I got it. Let's see. I think it's on Instagram. It's LarryTunes54. On Twitter, it's XMen Director. And my website is Larry-Houston.com. And just to let you know that the website's kind of old. I got to go back, and my son helped me set it up. I haven't touched it in years, so it's a little clunky.
Yeah.
But it exists. So that's where people can follow me, and you can send messages to me. And I've been trying to answer everything that, if you have a question, I'll answer it. Especially on Twitter, I've been able to answer questions really fast.
Yeah.
For people who like the show. And so yeah, those are the 3 places you can find me at.
Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad you invited me, and I'm very happy to talk with you, and I wish you all the success. I mean, you've got a very successful channel, and hope it continues, and hope you're are you doing more books? You said you did the alphabet book. Are you doing more?
I do want to do like a version 2 where I want to learn how to actually do realistic hair in 3D. So I want to do like a volume 2 where it's like not so basic, because I did like basic versions, but I want to do like a realistic version.
Okay. Now go for it. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Thank you. And to everyone out there, I want you to like So I Know It's Real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Seal the Deal, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Bye-bye.